self-hosted live stream. It's our first one. It's a little rocky even. It's like the original OG doing this for the first time kind of thing. Hey there, Alex.
Hi, Christopher. How are you?
Very good, very good. Hello, Cheesy. Hello, Brent.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Oh, pretty good.
Hello out there.
Hello. So guess what?
Hello.
We're doing something pretty fun today. This all goes back to something Alex made for the whole crew back during our sprint, these on-air signs. These contain little boxes in there that are Wi-Fi connected that can turn the lights on and off when we're recording. It was like a gift he brought for the whole crew. It's in a 3D printed case during our sprint. It was like the perfect gift for a group of podcasters, Alex.
It's Joe's fault, you know.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know.
Yeah. There was an episode, it might have been of Choose Linux, or it could have been User Error, or I don't know, some podcast that Joe did. He was complaining he didn't have a reason to get into home automation. And so I thought, given that we were just about to launch the self-hosted show, it might be a good idea to upskill the crew in flashing Arduino type stuff and getting everybody into the wonderful world of ESP8266 boards.
That is really cool. That is such a great use case for us nerds here. So what are we doing today with these on-air boxes? Brent and Cheese have one, and they've been playing with theirs. So I'm the most green when it comes to this topic.
Yeah. So Cheese and I did a little dry run last night, and it went well. Cheese, do you think? Would you say?
I would say it went well once I figured out that I needed to open the case and plug directly into the Node MCU and not into the buck converter that was just supplying power.
Yeah.
That only took me like nuking my laptop and switching distros because I thought
we did.
UDEV wasn't enumerating right and like. Oh, yeah.
We were blaming Elementary's UDEV rules, and then he put Manjaro on there, and it still wasn't working, and we were like, what's going on?
Nice.
So I went and brought out
Layer 1, gentlemen. Layer 1.
I brought out some of my own Node MCUs and plugged them up, and they were working. Like through D-Message, you could see them connecting and reconnecting.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, what would happen if I opened the case and just plugged directly into the node? And Alex was like, "What? You weren't doing that already?" I was like, "No, I wasn't."
Yeah, that was like 2 hours of your life, Cheese. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that was something like that. But hey, it's chatting with you, man, so it's all good.
And now we know how to do it and nice and tight for the live stream, which is good.
Right, that's right.
Totally. Yes. So getting to the meat and potatoes in the IRC, I've just posted a link to a blog post, blog.ktz.me, about Home Assistant smart LEDs using WLED and ESP8266. So today we're going to be looking at, if I can hold on to them, this guy, which I'm going to hold up to the camera.
It's so little.
This is called a D1 Mini. You can see on here, just underneath my fat fingers, there is like a little wavy gold line.
Uh-huh.
That's the Wi-Fi antenna. So this little box has a Wi-Fi radio in it. And it also, on the other side, I don't know how clear that's coming out on the camera, but it has a few GPIO pins that you can
pull it back here, and I think we'll see it. Yeah, just pull it. But yeah, I saw them. Yeah, I can just little itty bitty pins. So how are you connecting to those?
I sold the little wires, but you can also use this guy, which is called the Node MCU, and this guy has header pins on it. So I don't know if you can see those.
Oh yeah,
these header pins, you can use standard jumper wires like these little guys, and using these jumper wires, you don't even have to do any soldering.
I love that.
I like soldering, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And so these two guys, the D1 Mini on this side, the blue one, and the black one, well, it's actually white on this side. Let's do it this way around. The blue one over here, these are both based around the ESP8266 microcontroller, I guess.
Yeah.
And this is a really interesting platform. And before I discovered WLED recently, I was doing everything with a set of code that was released by a chap called Bruh Automation. So that involved downloading the Arduino IDE, then compiling some custom code, and then flashing it onto the Arduino and changing a bunch of stuff in the firmware. Now, what WLED does is it lets us flash a pre-compiled binary in about 30 seconds. And then we can configure these guys using our phones. It's super cool.
And you jump on that with Wi-Fi, so you just like put your phone on a Wi-Fi network?
Correct. So the firmware, the WLED firmware, turns this into a mini wireless access point, which is kind of mind-blowing on a $6 board. And then you connect to it from your phone, so it has a little DHCP server in there, and you just connect to a web server that's running on this little board.
Remarkable. DHCP and a web server on that tiny little thing. And that's not even its main job. That's just so you can manage it, right?
Right. So how do we get started? The first thing is to ensure that you have ESPtool installed.
Okay.
Now, on Arch, it's just a case of pacman-s ESPtool. But if you're on another Linux, you can use pip to install it with pip install ESPtool. There is a GitHub repo, which I will put a link to in IRC right now.
Thank you. Yeah, or just Google search later on ESPtool, GitHub, and you'll find it.
Yeah, it's a Python script, and that's it. Now, the next thing you want to do is go to the WLED GitHub page, which is
linking that too.
coming up. Yeah.
Also, a lot of this will be covered in further detail and linked in a future self-hosted 8. I believe we'll have more details.
I think so. Yeah. This is all of these resources are in that blog post that I linked at the start, so I'm just copying and pasting them from there anyway. Now, once you are in the GitHub repo, you want to navigate to the releases section and download 086 or 085, whichever you prefer, but look for the ESP8266.bin file.
Okay. All right.
And then once you have that, we're pretty much ready to go to flash it. You ready?
Yeah, I am. Is this something you can show us on your screen? Is there a?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot I had a.
Yeah, do a screen share there. I don't know how you do it in this fancy technology, but I believe we have the capability.
Yeah.
Look at us. You're a Blue Jeans guy, so I know this is all new to you, and I never use this either. So, all
right.
There's your car. That's nice.
Yeah.
Hey, that's us. I'm in there.
Yeah,
I'm right there in the passenger seat. You just can't see me. That's pretty great.
That was on the way back from Wendell on the Tail of the Dragon.
Yeah.
All right, so you can see a terminal window now, right?
Yeah. You could Control-Shift+ to get the text a little more legible, I think.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
I think you can do it. Yeah, there you go.
What a pro.
Yeah, I've done it a few times.
So let me just actually jump into this then.
Okay.
Right, this is the GitHub repo for WLED. And in here, there is everything you need to know. It's compatible with the Fast LED library, supports all sorts of different RGB strips and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff. Like it's compatible with the Amazon Echo Lady cylinders, as well as Philips Hue lights. It also supports MQTT and Blink. But the reason I got so excited about this is that it has native integration with Home Assistant's
buddy.
API.
Yeah, buddy.
So this is my current kind of development.
Oh my
version.
God! How did you do those temperature things? That's so pretty.
Oh yeah. So we were talking about this in Self-Hosted 8 about how you have the community hacks thing, HACS.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you could do was have custom Home Assistant cards.
Damn it.
So you could do these before.
I knew you were going to get me to do this.
And you used to just go through this way and follow the instructions in the GitHub repos and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But with hacks, it goes into GitHub, and when you click reload data, it scrapes all of the different repositories on GitHub and finds them. So if I search now for card, in plugins, if I search for graph card, you can see here this one, mini graph card. I put this in my Lovelace YAML. So I'll show you how I do that over here. So you go to the main page of Home Assistant, configure UI, raw config editor, and then at the top here, I have a bunch of those modules added.
Yeah.
And then in the graphs here, this is how they're configured. Where is it? It's this block here.
Okay. I see. Oh, that's a thing of beauty.
It's really straightforward. So now if I go into these cards, I can do all this kind of stuff here, and this is how that card's actually configured.
Look at that. Boy, that looks pro. Now, if it was dark themed, I'd say this is a commercial product.
Oh, I could do a dark theme.
Well,
I'll have to work on that. But I was working on it for my 3D printer, so you can see that here, you can see the nozzle temperatures and stuff goes up and down, and a bunch of other stuff.
That's a great use.
This is connecting into the Octoprint API. So I have a Raspberry Pi connected to my 3D printer behind me over here. It's pretty sweet. So
I could see why you'd want to pull more things into Home Assistant.
Yeah, a few. Like I'm still. This is my development instance. So this is one of my Wise cams looking out in my kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're still working on a few things, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about before?
Oh, I love you have Dark Sky in there
so
too.
your Home Assistant, are you running that on your server, or is that running on like a single board computer somewhere? How are you running?
Yeah, this is running on ESXi actually. So if I show you, it's the HAS.io. We actually just talked about this again in SSH 8.
Yeah, well, yeah. Of course, like we're just high level right now, but we go into details and self-hosted.
So I have a bunch of VMs running. One of them is HAS.io, which is just here.
Look at all those VMs.
Awesome.
It's a few.
Oh, for your home system.
Yeah, well, why not? So I can go in here if I want to and do a bunch of stuff. But what's interesting is that HAS.io under the hood is just running a bunch of different Docker containers. I know this is a bit small, but I'm sorry, that's the best I can do.
Yep.
So you can see that it's running Node-RED as a container. It's running ESP Home, VS Code, AdGuard, SonWeb, which is this super cool. Where's it gone?
Up just a little bit. Above community. You're looking for Asgard? Oh.
No, I'm looking for Tasmo admin, which I thought was on the left menu.
Oh, yes. This is also a huge deal.
So this guy, I can now see all of my different smart plugs. So I only have 3 that are in this particular instance right now. It takes a couple of seconds for them to update.
But you'll note it tells you what their Wi-Fi signal strength is, their version, their runtime, and their current energy usage. It's pretty great.
Yeah. And then you can update firmwares and all that kind of stuff from here. So if I go into detail view, you get like a bit more information.
That is so killer.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I think I've detected that this server plug is a little bit faulty because the restarts, if you look at the power on counted boots for these guys, it's like in the 30s.
Sure.
My server one was in like the thousands. Like 3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting when you do start collecting the information. If you can surface that information in a useful way, you'll start to see stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm using HAS.io right now, and it just works really well.
Yeah, so HAS.io is something we talk about in self-hosted 8, and there's a lot to it, but it's something I'm thinking about reloading to. So how do we integrate these on-air signs into this awesome piece of software?
Yeah, right. So I like to name my systems after South Park characters. That's not my current state of mind, by the way. So if we go to my downloads, in fact, I don't even think I need to do that. I will literally do this with you. So if we go to releases on the Air Cookie WLED GitHub page, download the latest version of the firmware for it doesn't matter. It could be for a Node. It could be for a D1 Mini. Because they're both ESP8266 boards, you just need this firmware here. Now, by default, this firmware uses pin D4, which if I pull up the D1 Mini pinout, I'll show you what I mean by that. So each of these boards have GPIO pins, right? Mm-hmm. Now, again, that's quite small. I think that's the best I can manage.
Yeah, it's pretty doable, though.
You can see, so on the left-hand side here, there is 5-volt ground and D4.
Mm-hmm.
Now D4 translates to, in the Arduino world, which is highlighted by this teal color in the bottom right here, translates to GPIO pin 2. Now your on-air sign is actually using pin D5. So if we look at D5, that translates to GPIO pin 14. So if you were to just flash this out the box with the sign that I made you, it wouldn't work. But I've sent Cheese a custom firmware that's compiled for the correct pin. But the one that comes from the GitHub like this uses GPIO pin 2. So that's what most people should connect it to. So you end up connecting to 5 volts, ground, and D4. And they happen to all be in a row on the D1 Mini. So you got 5 volts there, ground, and D4.
So if you were doing it again in the future, you wouldn't use D5. You would use D4?
Correct. Yes.
Gotcha.
The old firmware that I was using by Brett Automation needed D5 for some reason. I think it was some like clock counter or something for the LEDs.
That makes sense. That seems like a thing you'd want. All right. Well, and I guess it's sort of a good reason to investigate what you're flashing and how it works before you actually do the physical connections.
Yep.
So that's good to know. I wouldn't have realized that was even a thing. Of course, I'm very new.
So I'll download the binary file. That's going to be in my downloads folder now. And then all I want to do is look for a device under, in fact, we'll do it this way. We'll do sudo dmessage tac-w. And I'm now going to plug the D1 Mini into my system, and we should see some stuff come up.
Aha.
See that?
There
See
it
that?
is. Mm-hmm.
And we see here that it says TTY USB 0.
Right.
That's the important thing that you need to see. So now if I Control C to get rid of dmessage and run ESPtool, you see here how the command is made up. So
you're running that ESPtool and you're telling it to go to port/dev/TTY USB 0, which we got from dmessage.
Correct. Yeah. So you need to ensure that, because on some systems it might be something like ACM 0, but on Arch it's USB 0. We'll then tell it to start writing the firmware at flash point, like from block 0 in the onboard memory.
Okay.
And then this simply refers to the binary that we want to write, which is the one that we just downloaded.
Right. So in your case, you're in your home directory, so it's one folder down, which is downloads, and then it's right there at the top of downloads. Correct.
Now, I've added my user to the correct groups, so I don't need to run this as sudo, but you might need to run it as sudo to have access to USB 0.
Okay.
There's a bunch of stuff on the Arch wiki about permissions and that kind of thing, but sudo is all you need, really. So if I press enter now, this is it. It's now writing the firmware to the little thing that's spinning next to my head.
Cool. Features Wi-Fi. Chip is ESP8266EX. And it's writing at it's almost halfway done already. It's a 4 megabyte flash.
Yep.
All of this is happening in 4 megabytes?
Yep.
Oof. That is so cool. We talk about how bloated software's become. We're talking about 4 megabytes. 90%. 100%. That's it.
Done skis.
And then it resets.
And that's it. Now, I should probably stop sharing my screen. Although, well, no, I'm going to try and do it from here. Although I don't think it's going to work because I don't have Wi-Fi on this device, so I don't even know why I'm trying.
Can you show us that super sweet Jetta again?
Oh! Trying to trigger the man. That's his old one.
Sorry,
too.
Alex. I love you, Alex.
Yeah. Let's configure the desktop for the new pretty one.
There you go.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's great.
Beautiful. Look at that beautiful plasma configuration, huh? Beautiful.
Yeah, great headlights.
Right, so now I want to stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
And I'm back on camera, am I?
Hi there. Nice to see you.
Hello. Now, it's time for you to grab a smartphone because this little device is now broadcasting a wireless SSID. So you want to connect to WLED AP.
If you pull back a little, it doesn't focus when you get that close, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm going to disconnect the Quazzle. Hold on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, some of my work.
You could, I
messages
guess.
go
Could you? Does it have to be on a phone? Are you quite implicitly saying use a phone? Could it be a laptop?
Brent and I tried to do it on his laptop, and it got a little bit confused with gateways and stuff. So I found it works best on a phone, easiest. You only need to be on it for about a minute anyway.
Right.
So on Android, at least, you then have the thing that says tap here to sign into network. Can you see that?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm sorry, this is a bit jank, isn't it? But we'll make it work. Now it'll come up with this screen that says welcome to WLED.
Yeah, it's awesome. A little smiley face.
So that is actually running on a little web server on the D1 Mini. So under Wi-Fi settings, you now want to enter your SSID, and it has to be 2.4 gigahertz, by the way.
So did it bring that up almost like a CAPTCHA? Because you connected to the Wi-Fi, I didn't see you launch the browser.
Yeah. So sign in. You see at the top there, it says sign in.
I see why that works better. I see why it works better on the phone. I gotcha.
Yeah. I'm sorry it's so blurry, people, but...
I think you got to hold it about half as close as you are for it to focus, because your camera doesn't focus that close.
Okay. And then at the bottom of the screen, once you've put in your network name, SSID, you can fill in a static IP if you want to, but I'll show you why I don't do that in a moment.
Okay.
And then click Save and Connect. The D1 Mini will now reboot.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. It's barely larger than the size of the USB port it's plugged into.
Yep. So now it's time to go back to... Where did I put that window? Oh, it's here. If I refresh this page, we can see that WLED's now appeared. This guy.
Mm-hmm. And are we going to do a static reservation?
Yeah, why not? So this is pfSense, by the way, if you've been wondering what I'm using here. This is how I do all of my routing at home, and, you know...
Wow, it's come a long way since I've used it. Last time I used it was purple and a very different UI.
To be honest, the thing I use the most is the DHCP leases.
Same, 100% on my router.
So the way, instead of configuring each device with a static IP address, the way that I do IP address management is I look at the MAC address for each device, and then I statically assign an IP address that way. So it's a static allocation via DHCP, if that makes sense.
That's how I prefer to do it. I've done it that way for probably 15 years now, and it's worked really well for me.
And so if you're using pfSense, you can follow along here. DHCP leases, once you're in there, there is a section over here, this button called Add Static Mapping. I click on that. I'll put in an IP address of 165.
Boy, that makes it dead simple, doesn't it?
Save that. Apply those changes. And then I'm just going to power cycle the D1 Mini so that it requests a DHCP address again.
I have to switch to pfSense. That looks so great.
165, hopefully. Yeah, it's booted already.
That's so fast.
And that's it.
So you don't really need Home Assistant or anything. You could just make this a favorite in your web browser, and you could go to this page and tweak the settings of the light and be good with it. No integration, no automation, and you even looks like it even has presets. Easy peasy.
Yeah, so if you go into Wi-Fi setup, there's a bunch of stuff here that you can configure. This is the same as the first page that we looked at.
Mm-hmm.
The next page has LED preferences, so it tells me approximately what the current draw is. So right now, this it's not connected to any LEDs, this particular one. It's drawing just to be switched on 470 milliamps. Each LED pixel needs approximately 60 milliamps at full brightness. So just bear that into your calculations when you're trying to calculate power supplies and that kind of thing.
Alex, with this firmware on here, it's as if this little device was made to control LED lights. You could see how vendors could just ship this as a product.
Right. Yep.
That is so neat.
And then under USB interface, not USB, what's it called? UI settings, even.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to change this to D1 Mini self-hosted live hack. And this changes an important variable in terms of what it broadcasts over MDNS locally. So when we look at it at Home Assistant in a minute, it will actually have the correct name.
Mm-hmm.
Under sync interfaces, there's a bunch of other stuff here. So there's actually a button on the D1 Mini itself. If you press that physical button. You can turn the lights on and off, and that's what this thing here is talking about. You could integrate it also with an infrared receiver. And then, I'll let you read all this stuff on your own time, but there's a bunch of stuff here. Like I said, Amazon Lady Tube, Philips Hue, all that kind of stuff. And then you just give it your Echo invocation name. You just fill that in here.
That's fantastic. And like we talk about in self-hosted soon, MQTT as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So MQTT is great, and it allows pretty much every device in my home to talk back to a central point. But having native API integration is always going to be better. So
yeah, show me that. Let's
do that now.
Because I'm all
so
about
Home
it.
Assistant. This is Home Assistant again. We'll go to the configuration tab on the left and then integrations. We'll then click this little plus button down here in the bottom corner, and we'll search for WLED. And then we'll enter the IP address. Press enter. I'm going to say that this is in my makerspace. You see how there's different areas I can put it in. And then click finish. And that's it. That's now ready to use.
Boom. It was because it was on the same LAN, it just auto-discovered it.
Well, I put the IP address in, but yeah, it discovers...
Okay.
The API knows that WLED has all of these different things exposed. So if I now go and look at this information here, we can see that the current milliamps is 470.
Yeah,
we can see that the current status of the light is
on
this, right?
Yeah, and you can set the color.
Mm-hmm.
Now, should we be concerned about how many milliamps or how many amps are going into the D1 or a Node MCU? Do we run a risk of cooking it?
Yes. Ask me how I know.
I'm guessing you cooked one.
You see this one over here? Aww. It has a little X.
Yeah.
That means I fried this one. And the way I did that was I tried to attach 50 LEDs and power them directly off the bus, the power pins on the side of the Node MCU. Now, easy way around that is the wiring diagram that I put into my blog post, which I'll bring up again here. This one.
You burned it, so we don't have to, Alex. I appreciate it.
Well, yes, but, it's $6.
Yeah. That's what's great about this kind of stuff.
It's annoying, that's all, right? So the way that I get around the current limitations on the D1 Mini itself is this. So I bought a pack of 20 of these little micro USB power things. And then I just run straight from the 5-volt input to the 5-volt input of the LED strips, as well as powering the D1 Mini that way as well.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a great diagram.
Okay, so you just bypass the Node MCU or D1
for power.
Yeah. Now, in simple settings, like for my 3D printer behind me, just here. Can you see that? The webcam? Mm-hmm. This is a custom LED ring. It's got 20 pixels in it. I think it's the Adafruit Near Pixel type thing. Ring light, 24 LEDs. Now in there, that draws about 700-800 milliamps. And as long as you're less than 1 amp, you should be fine.
Yeah, okay.
And that's been running for 3 or 4 months. Absolutely solid.
Right.
So yeah, these are these little micro USB sort of power things. Just in terms of reference for size, you can see how, that's a Node MCU and this is the little micro USB.
Yeah. Okay.
Power board. But it's, that's it really. Once you give these things power, it's just a case of adding them to Home Assistant like we just did, and that's it.
What's your cost of goods, would you say, for a light strip, the Node MCU and the USB power thingy and all that?
Well, the Node MCUs and the D1 Minis are about $5 or $6 each. The LED strips can be anywhere from $25 to $35 each.
Yeah, depending on what you want.
Power supplies is where it can get a little more expensive, because if you're driving 300 LEDs, that's 300 times 60 milliamps, and very quickly you're up into sort of the 8 to 10 amp range. Mm-hmm. But if you consider that is driving 300 individually addressable LEDs doesn't seem too bad to me.
No,
it's still less than a single incandescent light bulb.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you look at the cost of Wi-Fi smart LEDs, it's astronomically cheaper. I was gifted a LifeX LED light setup that's $130 it's a lot of lights, but it's woof, it's a lot. Well, cool, Alex. That's a great, and that's all in these little guys, huh? So you're telling me my on-air light could be a button in Home Assistant?
Yes. Now,
sorry, I got a look excited there.
the other thing that we didn't show yet was that they have a native Android app.
Oh, really?
And iOS.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so you don't even necessarily need Home Assistant, so I'm showing this up to the screen.
And you don't have to use the web version either then, huh?
Not if you don't want to. And it's all just there as a...
I love that you have Linus. You have so many monitors that you have a Linus Tech Tip video paused on one of them. I love it. I saw in the reflection of the screen.
That's actually, I think the one.
Oh, there it is.
Looking at is that one there.
Oh yeah, what's that?
That's
what is
actually the band that opened for Tool this week in Raleigh.
That's music. It looked like Linus doing a facepalm. Well, that was pretty killer. I expected that to be a lot more complex. I actually think that's something I could figure out.
Well, we spent 25 minutes explaining a 30-second flash.
Right. Once you get there, and then the thing is once you have it set up, and you could bang these things out super quick. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
The really cool thing is Alex basically ran me through this, and I was doing soldering and everything, and we built one together in 30 minutes. From start to finish.
That's awesome.
Of course,
Brent,
I had never
okay
soldered such tiny
show your
parts, so I was a
photos
little
on
slow.
the stream?
Yeah, please go for it.
Ooh, photos.
And so I was really impressed with, going from 0 to 100 in such a small amount of time.
So either one of you guys, if you had some time, could totally deck out the studio with some cool light strips. I see. That's cool.
Yeah, you could do that for sure.
Yeah, or you guys. That's cool.
Yeah, I think I have a little video
feel
clip
free.
in there
Feel
too.
free.
But you should definitely show the one that has the
cool.
watch for scale.
Look at that. That is really great. I can see Brent's laptop in the background.
Yeah, so I made Brent's one quite small because he's traveling all the time, right? So this D1 Mini is, I don't know how big is it. It's the width of maybe 2 keys on a keyboard. That's a very strange thing to measure it by, but it's not very big. So it just powers straight off a micro USB connector. And it's pretty cute, pretty dinky. And this is using two different filaments. So this is for 3D printing, using a clear PETG filament for the first 2 layers, and then after that it's using black, obviously. But what that gives you is a nice diffusion. So there's only 10 LEDs in this little box. But you can see from Brent's pictures that it's plenty bright enough,
Sure.
So,
And Alex, I think that's the default of like 50% brightness that is flashed to it. I know you said that could easily be changed, so it gets even brighter.
oh yeah. So one of the things in the firmware is you can set. I'll actually just share the screen again because this is actually pretty cool. So one of the things you can do in the firmware is you can dial in the LEDs to your current preference. Come on. Oh yeah, I unplugged it. That's probably why.
Can I see that picture again? Did Brent take that picture? I think I'm starting to recognize a Brent picture.
Oh, I got my own style, Chris.
You do?
You got that bokeh in the background?
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's I can picture how Brent took the picture. I can picture how he held his body.
How he posed.
Yeah, how he, because he has kind of
Nice.
this, he won't just take it straight on, right? He won't just take, that's too boring. He's got to add his own special twist to it. That's pretty good. That's cool. That makes me want to do it right now. I wish I had a stupid hex screwdriver.
One of the coolest things about this particular project, though, is if you don't have Home Assistant, you can still control this from your phone from the WLED app.
Yeah.
Which probably has the worst icon in the world. But
or the web UI.
Or the web UI. I mean, I grabbed the app, and it's just freaking phenomenal, man. I don't know, there must be like 30 or 40 presets set up in here.
Yeah, I see
everything
that.
from lightning to
that's
strobe to rainbow.
That's something I didn't show yet. So if I go into the cards in Home Assistant, where is it?
What are you looking for?
Why is it?
I believe there's also a Christmas preset. Just saying.
Why does
There
that-
is.
Is there a Thanksgiving preset?
There's not.
That's all right. You can just start using the Christmas one after Thanksgiving.
But you can
I
make a
forget
Thanksgiving
where
preset. It should be under basic or whatever setup, and then scroll down, and there's a list of buttons.
Oh,
yeah. That's great.
Look at all of these
Wipe,
things.
scan. Oh, you could do like sort of the Cylon effect.
Look at all these
Absolutely
things.
and you can create your own, which I think is really neat too.
How,
but if you're like me,
how great
and you
is
don't
open
want any,
source and all this? How great!
oh,
It's incredible.
absolutely. But if you're like me,
Yeah,
and you
so
don't want all
where
this
I was
Home
going
Assistant
before
stuff,
was,
it's great.
let's say you get the LEDs dialed into the correct brightness and that perfect shade of pink that you love, Chris. You go into the LED preferences, and then you can select to use the current color, brightness, and effects
the
as
boot
default
default.
at boot.
Great.
So when you plug it in, it doesn't even need to talk to Home Assistant
That's
or
great.
anything else. It'll just turn on.
Yeah. Don't worry, Cheesy. We're coming for you. We'll get you on Home Assistant eventually.
Well, that's why I
Alex,
was asking about the single board computer stuff. If it would be possible to run.
I mean, you
Home
can.
Assistant on that.
Has.io, they have an image for the Raspberry Pi. Easy peasy. In fact, I think I get a sense a large portion of the community are running it on the Raspberry Pi because it was initially really pitched as a Home Assistant solution for the Raspberry Pi. I ended up preferring just to go with Raspbian and Docker, but looking back at it, I can see the advantages. It's something Alex and I get into more on Self-Hosted 8, which I've mentioned a few times. We've just been really packing it into Self-Hosted recently. Alex, is there anything else we want to say? Are we good?
Blame Canada? I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I always do, even though I have some family up
Well,
there.
thanks. I'll take that as a compliment.
Hey, I got family up there. It's just how it has to go, Brent. Thank you guys for being here. Alex, thanks for doing that. And maybe we'll do another one in the future, JupiterBroadcasting.com/calendar for when we do that. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, chat room. irc.geekshed.net. Pound Jupiter Broadcasting.
Laser guns and jetpacks and a space tank. Laser guns and jetpacks. Laser guns and jetpacks and a space tank. Laser guns and jetpacks. Look at these dead flies. Laser guns and jetpacks and a space tank.